Previously on Discograffiti. What is the biggest regret, though, of your life?
I can't talk about that.
Come on. Welcome to Discograffiti, the music podcast that delivers the objective truth about the entire discography of every single artist and band that ever existed. I'm your host, Dave Gebrow, and in this episode, we'll be turning our spray cans back on the zombies, alongside special guest Lou Barlow from Dinosaur Jr, Sebadoh, Centrido, and a host of other acts such as Deep Wound. And if you're tuning in for the first time, I just quit my job a few weeks ago while putting the Pavement series together, because I do just about everything here, from obtaining the guests to doing all the social media, all the recording and editing, you name it. And I love it. Currently, I'd have it no other way. The last 6 weeks of my career as a hearing instrument specialist was spent literally editing and promoting the Pavement series 8.5 hours a day, nonstop, until there was nothing left to do but leave. So why am I telling you this? Because I'm doubling down on Discograffiti. My wife and 3-year-old son are doubling down on Discograffiti. We're selling our house and planning on living as frugally as possible on the East Coast, and all of that just to ensure that Discograffiti is the standard bearer for all that is awesome about music. So don't go anywhere when this episode's done. Subscribe. Coming up, we have the greatest interview Lou Barlow has ever given, bar none, objectively speaking. And then 3 weeks of Jim Florentine rating Black Sabbath, 2 weeks of Randy Randall from No Age rating Jesus Lizard, and on and on and on, way into the future. Here's what I'd love for you to do. Check out all the back episodes. Trust me, they're all as good as the one you're about to hear. Share the ones you dig with your friends, post them all on your various pages and accounts, and tag me on the posts. I promise to join in on the musical merriment. Also, join our Facebook group, Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound. We're on Instagram and Twitter too, in case you don't mess with Zuckerberg. Also, please rate the podcast 5 stars, along with a beautifully worded review, especially if you're listening to the show on good old Amazon Music, or of course Spotify. It'll help a lot. The link to our legendary playlist is in the show notes and also on our website at discograffiti.com. And if you were like me and enough is just never enough, then visit patreon.com/discograffiti and become one of our Patreon Soldiers of Sound. Our Patreon feed is the ultimate music deep dive. I post 3 shows a week. The main show on Sunday, then Discograffiti's The Private Press with Paul Major on Tuesdays, and a Thursday wildcard episode, which is either an interview with that week's guest or one of our other offshoot shows like Rock Cousteau, Queasy Listening, and Battle Royale. So hey, try it for a month. You've got nothing to lose. Okay, back to business. First things first, you need to know just how seriously I take this craziness. Discograffiti is heavily researched, and the music is always reassessed with fresh ears. We're not just covering albums. We do a searingly honest deep dive analysis of all EPs, singles, comp tracks, relevant solo work, and bootlegs. Every release is slapped with an objectively accurate star rating between 0 and 5, which allows us all to come face to face with the true shape of an artist's overall arc. And away we go then, with special guest Lou Barlow, as we scale the soft, smooth ridges of Mount Zombie, minor key purveyors of breathy pop sads, turned, well, at least they had the 60s. You're how old now? You're like 55 or something?
Yep, I'm exactly 55.
Oh, you are? Okay. So it's an interesting time of life, obviously, but it's like, it feels like clearing the deck and being able to kind of see where, like, you're on like a slightly higher mountain, so you could see all the foibles and the like douching ups and mistakes that were made, you know, in the past few decades. And for me, at least, get a clearer sense of what that stuff is. And also, I feel more distant from it, so I can objectively probably tell you, if I sat and thought about it for a second, like give you a top 3 biggest regrets and not feel attached or depressed about it, because it just is what it is.
Yeah.
Boy, this has nothing to do with the zombies, but I'm definitely not editing it out either.
I don't know. My regrets are
You
too
have no
intense.
medical stuff going on, right? You're all healthy and
Yeah, I kind of, I changed some habits along the way that were endangering me. I'm about, I learned how to moderate.
you gotta give me some tips after the show. Really, I could really use some of that. That's a whole other story for a whole other day. So, all right. So next up is November 1965's "Is This the Dream?" An Argent song, backed with "Don't Go Away," a White song. So this is the first one of 1966. I love the "Hey, hey, hey" background vocals. Definitely like a spirited pop stomper. And I will say that Argent's keyboard solo, that shit is all over the damn place. I don't know if you, in a good way, I don't know if you ever heard the Jerry Lee Lewis live record from Hamburg in '62.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna get. Well, do you probably you're streaming stuff these days?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, I'll send you the record. No, you got to know the background. So, Jerry Lee Lewis's son had drowned.
Oh God.
He was over in Hamburg with his band, and they were all, I don't know if it was all of them or just him, who was totally fucking torn up with meth. And so, it seems like every band that was playing in Hamburg in '62 was so fucking hopped up on speed. It was probably a pretty kicking place to be at that time because of that. But this album sounds like a punk record. There's literally no reason to hear the studio versions of any of Jerry Lee Lewis's early work because of this record. I'll send it to you.
Wow.
Anyway, the craziness of Argent's playing reminds me of that. Don't Go Away, the flip, is much more of a sort of folky thing, very tender, very much more sort of in that Beau Brummel vein. And I'd never heard it before doing the work on this one. I love it like mad now.
Oh yeah, it's great.
I give this single five stars. I actually love it.
Yeah. I guess I had never really focused on who wrote what songs, but now I'm realizing that Chris White,
he's a great songwriter.
I think he's my man.
It's almost like Argent was Lennon and McCartney and Chris White was Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, I love Argent songs as well, but I think I do really love, they're so, like, Don't Go Away. Oh my God. That's such a sweet song. If you were to switch the A-sides and B-sides of this, of a lot of these songs, there would have been this run from She's Not There all the way through where you could have had all very zombie sounding, these like sort of Downcast,
stuff. Yeah.
Like each single has a thread of like what the original, that sound of the band. Yeah. Just Don't Go Away. I Love You. I Remember When I Loved Her. I Must Move. Those are all just so fucking, I don't know. They're gorgeous. And I don't know. I would say 4.5 just to differentiate it from.
I like it. I like where you're going with this. This is the way to go. All right. So January '66, we have Just Out of Reach, which is actually a Colin Blunstone song, backed with Remember You, a Chris White song. So
I thought Remember You was the A-side.
So this was that Preminger movie, Bunny Lake is Missing.
Yep.
Which I've never seen.
I saw it. I watched it when I was into this. I got into the zombies. It was pretty. I don't remember much. It's not a great movie.
It's not. So you saw it for this?
Just to see them, yeah. I mean, I heard that they were in the movie, so I read that they were in the movie, so I saw the movie.
So you're saying in the last week or two you saw it?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying back in the day, like back.
I'd like to think that you really went balls to the wall for this. My heart skipped a step, and then it, of course, shut down.
I mean, they just, their appearance in the movie is incredibly, like, I think they're on TV in the movie. You know what I mean?
So they're like in the background of the background.
Yeah, they're like in the background of the background. It's incredibly disappointing because I was really hoping to get a glimpse of what they. I mean, especially back then. I think you can find some stuff on YouTube now of them. That was just something great.
This is not a major work by them. I mean, this is basically what happened was Preminger, who I'd picture chomping on an unlit butt end of a cigar and pointing and barking orders. I picture it that way. He won 3 songs by them. He gave them 10 days to do it. They didn't have any songs. And at the time, Argent and White were suffering from writer's block, apparently. So White came up with 2. He came up with Remember You and Nothing's Changed, but third song still absent. So Blundstone got Just Out of Reach. And it kind of sucks. I mean, I think it's like
I don't think it sucks.
For them. It's like to me, it's like a run-of-the-mill, no-brainer Beatles outtake. That's from my point of view, which is why it hurts so bad in such a real place. So Remember You, another haunting fugue in 3, something they're very, very good at. And this is a weird middle period for the band. It's kind of the weird middle unknown period of bombing singles, one after the other. Some of them better than the others, but very few of them that I was actually familiar with before the Trawl, which is like one after the other. They kept surprising me. I give this one 3 stars.
I'd go 4 just because I like Just Out of Reach. I've always liked it. I like it because it is kind of different for them. I guess you could say it's Beatlesy, although the only bands that I ever feel like they sound like are like sort of the R&B, sort of classic, Spectre pop bands that they imitate now. A few of their, like we were talking about She's Coming Home, or that, that's them sounding like another band. To me, right. Just Out of Reach, it still sounds like them. I like it looser. I like that the 2 main guys didn't write it. I like the fact that it is sort of like the oddball, like, member writing, the guy that doesn't usually write. I've always found it really charming. So I guess I'm more like charmed by this single, and I do like how loose it sounds. Yeah. And
I mean, there's definitely
it's catchy. It's also, again, it's and like all of their tunes, it's catchy. Like that's the other thing about them, is that I find almost all of their melodies, really, if you go through, there's so many things that are available now that you can pretty much, anything that they recorded is now, you can now hear it. There's only a small handful of those songs, what I say are like not memorable. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're like, they really had such a knack for making like really just memorable melodies. And Just Out of Reach, I actually find that one, because I think of that song, you know what I mean? I think of it, it'll pop into my head randomly, and it has been ever since I heard it, so it's like Just Out of Reach. And then of course, Remember You is like amazing. So I would,
Remember You is very intense. Yeah, it's great.
I would go with, I think out of all the singles that we've gone through so far, it's probably not the best. It's probably, but I'd still give it 4, it's still.
Yeah, it's definitely solid. And I think that they would be very happy with that rating. So June 66, we have Indication, by an Argent song backed with How We Were Before, another Blundstone tune. At first, what I noticed with Indication was that that harmonic richness is gone in their attempt to strike the same kind of gold that seemed to fall from the sky for them just a year previous. And you can kind of hear them strip the elements that are most intriguing to them out of the music in their bid to make this their forever day job. But that's only how the song begins. That's the first, I hear that in the first minute 45 seconds. It's actually kind of off-puttingly straightforward up until that point. And that's when the trippy pop jazz kicks in and it gets Easterny. And it's their first overt attempt to be really trippy. That's what I love about this is that you really think it's going into sort of, the sort of Plastic People sort of thing, and it really takes a sharp left.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And then the flip is even more gorgeous. I mean, I think it should have been considered a classic. This one, How We Were Before, is incredible. I think it's one of their best songs. Well, it definitely is my favorite Blundstone song that he wrote for the Zombies.
Yep.
I give this 5 stars. I'm a big fan of this.
Wow. 5.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is on the level of I think maybe just like a hair under the first 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess reflecting the fact that it would be a hair underneath the first 3, I'd say 4.5. But
you can go 7/8, bro.
I've always really, I love Indication. I like the line, like, I'll hold out against sensation. I was always like,
oh, that's cool.
I'll hold out against sensation. I'm like, that seemed like that's a interesting.
That isn't. I have no clue what that means, but that is.
Yeah, it's kind of like
some hard-hitting lyric, though. It certainly sounds incredibly meaningful. So, September 1966, we have Got to Get a Hold of Myself, which is a cover, and then The Way I Feel Inside, written by Argent on the B-side, which is that really beautiful a cappella thing that Blundstone does.
Yeah, that actually, today I was listening, and there's actually several like band versions of that. I think they just sort of progressively stripped away. Shit. Yeah, they just sort of. It's almost like, have you ever heard the original of We Will Rock You?
No, is it a whole?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
I did not. Yeah. Is it good?
Yeah, it's cool, but it sounds like it sounds kind of standard, I would say. It's like kind of a standard, middle of the road kind of glam rock tune. They definitely did a great service by stripping everything away from him. It's a genius move. Yeah. And the way the way I Feel Inside it has sort of the same arc. Like, it started as a kind of like really nondescript song. It's kind of what you were describing. It would be like, it was actually, as a band song, pretty unremarkable for a Zombies tune.
Right.
But what they did to it and the way they strip it all down is like, but that also shows how playful they were. So if this is sort of the latter part of their their career, and they're sort of on their way down, and they're still doing stuff like that, and it just there's actually some. It's on I think it's on this Apple playlist thing that I was listening to, but there's a lot of studio banter around the original version of that song, like when they're playing as a band, and it's really interesting because it just sounds playful, and they sound like,
it doesn't sound like the Trugs.
No. Yeah. Speaking of oh my God, the Trugs. No.
He's got a very special voice. It's hard not to get really immediately sucked into his vortex. When you think of, like, if you just say the words, breathy male pop vocalist, it's the first name that's going to come to mind for me.
Yeah. I don't know how he did it.
Speaking of breathy male pop vocalists, one of my favorite songs that you've ever done is on what is it? I can't remember the name of the collection, but it's got Colix Jantara on it, and the song is Strange Love.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about? You know the one?
Yeah.
What a great song, dude.
Thanks.
All right, so the Gotta Get a Hold of Myself single. Here's another one that I'd never heard or even heard of before this trawl. And oddly, it doesn't even sound much like the Zombies to me. I mean, they sure entered 67 sounding pretty strange to me. I mean, not good strange, more unrecognizable strange. The A-side is one of their least essential tunes, totally perfunctory. They were a spent force at this point, throwing a cover on the A and a previously released tune from Begin Here on the flip. I give it 1.5 stars.
Ooh.
No thanks.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess I actually really like the cover.
You do?
I do. And I think there's a lot of heart in it. There's like so much heart. It's like just a very, very sincere tribute to that song, to that kind of songwriting. And it's like I've been repeating this, but I just feel like they probably really loved like Motown, and they really loved, like, that was probably primarily what they listened to, that I would guess. Of course, like I said, I don't know what but I think that I think that was probably really what they listened to, like a lot of R&B, a lot of like Spectre pop, a lot of like, and I just think it's a beautiful tribute to that music. And I think Colin Blunstone's performance on the song is incredible. I think it stands with, I mean, it's like, when you talk about like Summertime being like their version being the definitive version, like I love hearing Colin sing that song. And I love the B-side, even though, it is weird that they did like drag it out from the album. I mean, it is a very slapdash. It's a very slapdash thing, as like, if you think of it in terms of their career, and it's not a whole lot of love behind the choice there, but But there is, to me, like, but both of those songs are just really imbued with like so much of their passion, and actually I like it because it's a really good juxtaposition, because it's, you have like, it's totally like Colin totally stripped down singing The Way I Feel Inside, and then also him just in full like glory, like just just reaching into the depths of his voice, and reenacting this kind of R&B stuff that may have been a little beyond their reach and may not have been, really where their comfort zone was. But I'd like it, I'd give it, I still would give it like 4 stars.
This area of their career, aside from the exhumed version of the band later on, is really the gutter for me. I don't like it. No, I'm talking about 2 singles here. I'm only talking about 2 singles.
Oh yeah, of course.
This one I'm not a fan. Only Gotta Get a Hold of Myself. The Way I Feel Inside is totemic and iconic. But March 1967, you have a cover of Going Out of My Head, backed with She Does Everything for Me, which is, unassailable. But the A-side, Jesus Christ, fuck this. End of the Road. I absolutely hate it. It sounds like they have been raped by the business, like Ned Beatty in Deliverance. There's horns, unrecognizable vocals. You can't tell it's the Zombies. And the B-side is something different entirely. One for them, I suppose, right? So it's insistent. It's got that insistent pounding raga rhythm that definitely points the way forward.
That's one of my favorite Zombie songs, actually. Like, listening to it, I mean, I don't know. That one makes me crazy. Like, She Does Everything for Me. Like, makes me nuts. I like, because the playing is really the cool thing about it too is it's pretty rockin'. It's like it's not, they aren't treading that lightly on this tune. It's like they really they are digging into it, and it's like it's great. It's such a great song. To me, again, like, Going Out of My Head, it's like, I don't hold it against them. I'm just like, it's
I definitely don't hold it against them, but
a lot of those bands were doing that at that time. Like there was a lot of bands, I think, in that period, like 60, that sort of pre-psychedelic period, like the bands that weren't super cool, like the Hollies, or I don't know, like they didn't really know, they kind of didn't know what they were going to do,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the point of contention over which Nash split the group, because the rest of them wanted to do the Hollies sing Dylan.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's like, I feel, because the Hollies, are pretty,
they're not bad. I mean, they have great.
They're not bad.
It's funny. The Hollies are a major point of contention with a bunch of guys in the Discography Soldiers of Sound group, which only points out the fact that that part of our brain should be engaged with something else entirely, like anything else, like studying about the habits of bees.
Oh,
anything. But
that's right.
But the Hollies, are they a great band? Do you just call them a great singles band? Even their quote unquote great records, they're not great. I mean, Butterfly's not great. Evolution's not great.
No, those. Well, see, those are the kind of they're a good comparison to the Zombies, like, because it feels like their stuff actually feels forced, like
it does. Oh yeah,
actually feel forced. I mean, their hits are fucking incredible.
They are
incredible. Like,
the best one, my favorite's King Midas in Reverse. That is just great.
That's amazing. Bus Stop's amazing. What's the Karis? What's the one that stop all your dancing? The dancing, stop dancing.
Even the air that I breathe, and
that's good.
Long Cool Woman is a CCR pastiche, but it's great.
It's great.
Yeah.
But like, you really get a sense. You really you feel like those, like a band like that, you feel them grinding into the 60s. You're like, they're looking and they're grinding.
Yeah.
And to me, like, the story could be the same for the Zombies. They could have been on that same grind, but it never, to me, it never shows up in the music. Like, I never hear it. Like, I'm just like, I don't know whether it's just because I embraced them. I mean, actually, I was, I was in my early, 19, 20 when I got into the Zombies. So it's not, I was pretty cynical, it's not that I was listening to like industrial music and the Zombies. I was like, there was no, I was about extremes. I just loved extremes, and I was very, very nihilistic.
But then you started smoking pot, thought things sounded better, right?
I did. Well, the Zombies were part of that. The Zombies sounded really fucking good when I was high. That was a. And in fact, I Must Move is probably the top song as far as it's got a very somnambulistic. It does. I mean, it has like it has a kind of a. There's a drum fill in that where it goes like chukaka, now more than but that chukaka, that beat that he does is like it's almost on par with Rain by the Beatles, like just that.
Yes.
Just with the way that it just like that just lays this.
The kind of psychedelia that actually seems more grounded in a sort of queasy displacement, almost like What's that old doo-wop song from the 50s? Not the Honey Drippers covered it. Is it Sea of Love?
That's the one they covered, yeah.
Yeah. So the original of that has an almost Dramamine begging seasickness vibe to it.
It does, you're right.
Yeah, right. And that is a kind of psychedelia that you don't, you're not like slapping sitar on something. It's something that is oozing from the grooves, from the tape itself.
Exactly.
But Going Out of My Head was a highlight in the Zombies' career because they had gotten really big in the Philippines. It was a big hit for them in the Philippines. So it was like, ignored, I believe.
There you go. It's a decent version.
I fucking hate this song, but it's funny because the A side is a 0 and the flip is a 5. So I give it.
Oh, the flip is a total 5.
I give it a 3. I'll give it a 3.
I'd still give it a 4. Just because She Does Everything for me is crazy good. And like I said, I don't, how I've made it clear how I feel about their covers. So
yeah. No, you're the kind of fan that a band needs in their corner. So, okay. And I am not possibly, but actually with these guys, I kind of am. Phase 3, the freedom of going for broke when nothing matters anymore. A notion that I'm guessing that you and I are both intimately familiar with. 1967 to 1968, Odyssey and Oracle, recorded during the Summer of Love, released in 68 after it was too late. I'm guessing you're familiar with the whole story of, this is kind of like we're over, but let's just like one more for the road kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I am familiar with that.
So, I can't even think of a corollary where like a band produces a stone cold masterpiece that's, seen as being on a level of Sgt. Pepper, but the band was done by the time it came out. Odyssey and Oracle. All right, so let's talk about the situation here. So their label was quickly becoming uninterested. The live circuit was drying up. They pooled their own resources together and they financed this. It's only their second fucking album, and they're kind of DOA. And it's a sink or swim record. They have nothing to lose because they're kind of done. And even the name of the record, nobody gave a shit, so it was just misspelled right on the cover.
That was a misspelling, or it was a purposeful misspelling?
It was not a purposeful misspelling, I don't believe.
How could some smart...
Hold on. The misspelling of Odyssey in the title was the result of a mistake by the designer of the LP cover, Terry Quirk, who was a friend of White's. The band tried to cover this up at the time of release by claiming the misspelling was intentional.
Ah, okay. But it wasn't them. It wasn't them.
Right.
It was the artist.
Right. Okay. So now we're in full psychedelic mode. It's the summer of love. The zombies are looking around the room because, they're at EMI. It's 1967. And look at this instrument in the corner. Look at that. And what you have at the end of the day is one of the greatest masterworks of that time and of all time. And the unfortunate nature of what was happening at the time is that almost nobody paid attention, really. Again, recorded between June and August 67. It's Abbey Road Studios and Olympic Studios. The stereo album mix was completed on January 1st, 1968. So at this point, morale in the band was down at the floor level. 2 singles had been unsuccessful. That's Carousel 44 and Friends of Mine. 2 of the greatest songs ever. I mean, these are great songs, totally unsuccessful. And the band had a sharp decline in their demand as far as, playing live gigs. So after one final gig in mid-December 67, the band decided to call it a day. So they're going into the release of this thing with a defunct band. And everybody sees this thing, at least at this point, as one of the greatest albums of all time. And when it comes out, there's no band to support it. Let's talk about the record. Carousel 44. This song is blank. Fill in the blank.
This song is probably the only song, maybe, in history written to a woman who is being released from prison.
Yes. Yeah, what a great... And it was actually, the working title of the song is Prison Song.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
What a great tune. Plus, it is so sunny that it's one of the all-time most... insanely, almost obnoxiously catchy, in-your-face Beach Boys.
Well, what I really like, and it reminds me of something I really like about the Zombies, is how they're not masculine. You know what I mean? They're like, and it's not to say that they're it's effeminate. That's not it either. They're almost in a way, they're kind of like the first. I was thinking about it today. I'm they're kind of like the first indie band in a way, because they're they didn't play into masculine stereotype stuff. There was no even their, what I'm there's so many, they've got besides Friends, they've got at least 2 other songs that are written from the perspective of a guy talking to his friend saying, she really loves you. She really does love you. They actually have several of those songs where they're actually...
And the funny thing about that's so perfect, is that these guys are so fucking nerdy and bookish that it's one generation removed, because the prospect of them actually engaging in any kind of romantic interplay is impossible, because they just read about this stuff. So it's always about she and he and you, not...
And they take a very and also the reoccurring theme in the songs. And this is something that when I look back at my songs, sometimes I wince, because I'm I've really come to I have a song called Willing to Wait, where it's just like, I'm willing to wait my turn to be with you. And it's just sort of this concept of like, you've left me, you're having an affair, but I'll be here waiting for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have to say, we're talking about being 55 and looking down at the rest of your life, looking down at those moments now to me, I'm just like, dude, well, the Zombies were really into that. Yeah. That mode of songwriting. It seems like Chris White in particular.
These guys are pushovers left, right, and center. Here's another one. Maybe After He's Gone.
Yes, exactly. That one. I listened to that today and I was like, oof. Yeah. Are you sure? I mean, but it's such a beautiful song.
Yeah. Well, so one final note about Care of Cell 44. Actually, a couple final notes. It was working title was Prison Song. But I didn't know if you knew this. The second working title was Care of Cell 69. That is true. So they were told they couldn't call it that, and so they acquiesced.
That's funny. I mean, maybe they really. Maybe yeah. I saw it. There's a YouTube live video of them, and Colin Blunstone is wearing a sweatshirt. It's like I think it's a Miller High Life sweatshirt. And it says "Breakfast of Champions" on the bottom of it, and I was like, "What is that?" I was like, "Is that the first ironic T-shirt?" I was like,
"There's that strain of Sunshine Pop that is so sweet that it goes beyond what Brian Wilson will capably throw. It's more in the Kurt Betcher territory, right? Like the and Millennium, and this fits very comfortably in that zone. So moving ahead, A Rose for Emily. With that one bar of the piano with the reverb drenched, I always look forward to this musical moment with bated breath.
That whole record is that. There's just moments. There's little pauses, and then something like kicks in, it's so
A
rich.
Rose for Emily. Fuck, man, it's a perfect little confection, and Blunstone calls that shit his bitch because. I mean, the way that his vocal caresses the track.
Yeah, it's really well recorded.
It's really nice. Yeah. Maybe After He's Gone is next. Another Stone Cold classic. This one, I would say more like a junior classic because Care of Cell 44, Rose for Emily, that's as good as music gets. I do like the minor key verse transitioning into the shiny bright rainbow of the chorus. And the Gregorian chant round finale is also stunningly good.
Yes, it is.
Indeed it is. And then we have Beechwood Park. So we have, by the way, you have Chris White has 3 songs in a row. Mm-hmm. Maybe After He's Gone, Beechwood Park, and Brief Candles. What a great showcase for his talent. Beechwood Park. Kind of more mellow and kick back than a lot of the stuff on the record, with very breezy background vocals. So I believe the whole first side, the first 6 songs, it's perfect. There's nothing that's not of classic status. Brief Candles is amazing.
Yeah.
That chorus, it's just a fucking party each and every time it kicks in. So triumphant. Hung Up on a Dream is next.
That's one of my favorites.
That's really good. We're back with Argent.
I really do like that. Yeah, I listened to some weird, kind of a strange version of that today that was on that Apple playlist. There was no overdubs on it or something, or a mono version, but it was a little different. It was more muffled. It sounded slower somehow. I don't know. but that song is amazing. I mean, it's just like I think that song really blew me away when I first heard the record because I had yet to have a girlfriend.
How old were you when you had your first kiss with tongue?
Probably 21.
Really?
Yeah.
No way. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I was
That is late.
Yeah, I was lonely.
Were you nervous around women? Is that what was?
Yeah. Absolutely paralyzingly.
I was paralyzingly scared with women. Yeah. I would shake physically when I was talking to a girl.
Oh no, I couldn't do it.
I still, to this day, when I'm hanging out with my wife, I just get so nervous. I'm kidding. That would be so funny. That would be great. Yeah, I mean, so that's wow. That is kind of late. So
yeah, that was the Hung Up on a Dream was my big like Virgin tune.
Huh? Yeah.
To wake up, then I woke up only finding you only but a dream.
I love that progression.
Yeah, it's like da 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 da.
Oh, great. So now we're on side B, and a lot of I think there's a few come from behind classics that are really, when I think about the record, I think of a couple of surprising songs maybe on the record, but we kick it off with Changes, which is a Chris White song. My least favorite song up to this point. It's still good, but not quite at the level of the first side, I think. There's a super dense Mellotron intro and a very prominent bongo boom bap going on there. I don't really, it's almost not playlist material. I think that like this one just gets in on our hallowed playlist. It's a very ill-fitting combination of square and hippie too. So there's like chorale Beach Boys vocals with bongos and Mellotron.
Well, they were kind of square a little bit.
They were, yeah.
Yeah,
in a good way. I Want Her, She Wants Me, which I love that lyrically this is more a conceptual thing. Like it's a mood is I want her, she wants me. I think that's super cool. So it's a kind of a hyperspace pop song that's like really ADHD with countless melodic rivulets and offshoots that almost like it feels like mycelium that's growing off it. This song's an A+. I think it's one of the best songs they ever did. So good I changed the rating system.
Wow.
From numbers to letters. Do you hate that song?
No, I don't hate that song.
All right, good. This will
I don't hate any zombie song except for except for
don't worry, we're getting a Butcher's Tale in a second. This will be our year. This is probably the best song of all time.
I covered that song. Have you heard my cover?
Oh shit! When?
I did it for a Valentine's Day special, pandemic Valentine's Day special.
I did not know that.
You got to check it out. It's pretty good.
I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, it's on Spotify too. It's on like.
Objectively, is this better than the original?
My version?
Yeah.
No, but it's pretty good. It's actually better than I would have imagined it could have been.
I'm so psyched to hear it.
Yeah, it's like actually because people always tell me that I sound like Colin Blunstone. I'm like, no fucking way am I anywhere.
You do.
In that zone. But then actually doing the song, I was just like, oh, maybe because I didn't think I would be able to negotiate the chord change in the song because it does the whole. But I'm like, actually, maybe, yeah,
You have a very pronounced Blunstone quality, but it's through your own sausage grinders. So it's kind of like,
definitely a grinder.
Rod Stewart with David Ruffin or something,
Yeah, but I do. Yeah, you should check it out. Everybody should check it out.
The second I hit stop, I'm going right to it. All right, now we got to talk about this, okay? Because this is the only bad song on the record. And if only Butcher's Tale Western Front 1914 would just fuck the fuck right off, the album would be completely perfect. So I've always hated that this song existed.
I do now because it actually I was actually coming on a playlist today while I was listening and I was like, I can't do it.
I can't stand that song. Especially because just what surrounds it is so top shelf.
Yeah, I think texturally it's a really, I think in terms of like records from 1967, it certainly fits the bill. It's a weird little odd tune that you throw in there. It's like, it's there. It's, there's plenty of.
It's a period piece deal about war. It certainly fits.
It fits, and it's also the fact that it is stylistically and all that stuff, texturally kind of the oddball. But I think it's been fitting with the time. I never minded it really. But I read today that they wanted that to be a single. Is that true?
Yes, it is true. Which sometimes an artist is just such a terrible judge of their own output. I don't get that at all. I mean, you clearly have really, really promising material on the record for singles. That is not one of them.
Well, that maybe they just wanted, that was their way of being relevant at the time. They're like, we got to put this out.
Yeah, and they really had not taken a stab up at that point. Speaking of period piece efforts about war, I'm curious about your stance on the charlatans style psychedelic Western town kind of a thing, like an old Western, but they're playing like, psych bills.
San Francisco?
Yeah. So the charlatans were the first motherfuckers who adopted that, Western garb.
Oh.
Thing. Do you think that, and then bands like Beachwood Sparks came in and beat it over the head. But the charlatans started that. Do you like that for a psychedelic garb, or do you feel like it was
No. I like I read the 13th Floor Elevators book, and there was some really funny description of them showing up in San Francisco, and they were just like, shit kickers, these guys dressed in street clothes, and everybody in San Francisco were dressed up like old time bartenders or something. I can't remember what they said, but it was just like that they were just in, I think Frank Zappa also said a lot of really withering shit about that too. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, that's no surprise there. He wasn't much on the thing in general, but I'm sure.
No, exactly. He did not entertain. He didn't suffer hipsters.
No, but we had to suffer, some of his solo albums. So I'm not a real, to be honest, I'm not a real San Francisco fan. 67 early or like 60. Yeah, I'm not like a 60. The San Francisco scene was so locked down by Bill Graham and that whole scene of the Western garb guys. And I love Moby Grape. There's some
Moby. Yeah, that's good stuff. That is true.
Some of the second tier stuff is some of the greatest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah, and
also for all their idealistic, hot air horse shit, I have such a weak spot for the Airplane.
Yeah, they're really good too. What am I talking about? I don't know.
And the Dead. The Dead is just from 65 to 77. They're infallible in my eyes. Are you a Dead guy or no?
No. No.
I could put some stuff together that would change your mind. Anyway, Friends of Mine, another greatest song of all time. Chris White, like just going nuts. Friends of Mine is so catchy. It's mind-boggling. I
did hear that song a couple of times during the course of doing my homework, and I became really fixated on all the couples' names.
Right. And look, this is what you were talking about before. It's literally the ultimate example of that. It's talking about like 100 people's different relationships. And it's also, it really is just a fucking TNT blast of pure joy. It's so good. Even better than the big single, Time of the Season, which, by the way, Blundstone hated, didn't want to do it, wanted Argent to sing it, and he had to be talked into it. Great song, obviously. Not much.
Maybe he didn't like the "Who's your daddy" line. Just like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable. It's a little masculine for me. It's a little heavy, don't you think? Daddy?
It kind of is for them, and it always kind of feels a little weird getting to that part. It does.
I don't know. I think
I love it though,
because I see you were kind of saying that you thought that the zombies were not getting laid, and I have to disagree. I think that they probably had really sweet, steady relationships. I think that they were probably all had girlfriends from the beginning of the band even.
Do you think they offered them pins as one did at that time?
They possibly did.
I think they probably did.
Sweet stuff. They like...
My dad bought my mom an engagement ring. He kept a receipt just in case the response was not to his liking.
Nice.
All right. So look, one bad song as far as I'm concerned. But overall, it's, truly one of the greatest albums of all time. It's really a joy. It's a joyous salute to a career that really truly seemed to be completely in their rearview mirror at this point. This is, it's no Kinks Lola or any kind of embittered, venom spraying thing. These guys are just grateful to be in a recording studio doing what they want to do, and you can hear it. Not really worthy of mention is Time of the Season's B-side, I'll Call You Mine. I never liked that. But that being said, the record itself, a very hard 5, even with Butcher's Tale.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yep.
Here's what went down. Time of the Season was released as a single in 1968 and spent a long period as, I guess, what was referred to as at the time as a sleeper. And eventually in 1969, it grew into, big hit and peaked at, I believe it was number 3. So in 1968, Argent and White begin working on material for what may be a new band when they're approached by CBS to do another Zombies album. So there a few new tracks were cut with Argent, Hugh Grundy, Jim Rodford on bass, and Rick Burkett on guitar, and combined with some old Decca outtakes and demos that were kind of hastily overdubbed and enhanced. And it was supposed to come out in 1969. The album was canceled, and only a couple of the songs, Imagine the Swan and If It Don't Work Out, were put out as singles instead. So 1968, I Love You, which we already know about, and The Flip, The Way I Feel Inside. 1969, Imagine the Swan, backed with Conversation Off Floral Street, which we'll cover when we get to the record itself. And then in 1969, If It Don't Work Out, backed with Don't Cry For Me. Now we're at Rest in Peace, The Lost Album. This is a release that was never actually put out at the time. It was recorded in December 1968, finally released in Japan in 2000, and it's a mixed bag. What are your thoughts on this? Let's start with She Loves the Way They Love Her.
I listened to this stuff today, and I always thought I didn't mind it, but I kind of hated it today.
Yeah, because it's a Vegas take on the Zombies, right?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just don't like. I think, well, there's a lot to. I mean, you talk about this, like the sort of bouncy pop that the Zombies do. Like, I have almost no tolerance for that music by other bands. Right. I don't know why. I kind of don't. I just I've never. Whenever I hear that dum 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 that beat actually, and then any kind of like flowery late 60s psychedelic stuff, I have a real distaste for it. Like. Right. That maybe people wouldn't expect me to have, but the Zombies are one of the few bands that really pull it off. And I don't know, it's the depth of the sound, it's Blundstone's voice, it's the songwriting, because I do think I think they just, like Chris White and Rod Argent were just legitimately, like, really catchy songwriters. They just really knew. Yeah. So, because a lot of times that kind of bouncy pop that's not catchy to me, I mean, it's like, it makes me want to kill. I mean, I'm like, I can't, I'm like, I can't, music that sort of like is performed as if it's catchy, that's totally dead, is just, I find it maddening.
But this is, I mean, this
is that stuff. This is it's like, it's like the Zombies with the soul kind of torn out of it. And also, they also, the other thing too is like, She Loves the Way They Love Her. It's like, that's actually taking a different kind of philosophy. It's like, it's taking a more aggressive approach to like talking about a woman, it's more like, they're talking about the vanity of a woman. And I'm like, they kind of didn't do that before. Everything the way that they sang, that was the thing I was sort of talking about, their not quite masculine approach to stuff, they were very I mean, it seemed very respectful, in general. And that to me, it's just like, I hearing it today, I was like, ugh.
So are you saying that you interpreted the song title as, look at her, that attention-starved whore?
Kinda, yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Today, yeah. I'd actually never heard, I'd never really heard it that way.
To that that breakdown of it is this kind of off-puttingly show busy hard left in the music style that feels like there's that disconnect. It's like there is no heart in this. It's just I mean, I don't dislike it as much as you. I actually think it's decent. I think, let's just say it's good enough, I suppose. I thought that way.
I felt that way too for the last 35 years. Like today, my mind changed.
It does reek of this sort of ersatz, like playing at sort of a thing. What I think is worse is Imagine the Swan.
Oh God, yeah, that too. It's the same thing.
Like that. So again, with the sort of COD Vegas psych bullshit, it's like taking acid with Tony Orlando.
Oh,
it's gross. Fucking gross. That's not a good song. Smoky Day, though, is a big course correction. That's gorgeous. Very atmospheric flute intro, the plucked harp, the masterfully roomy production. It's all completely 100% fitting for the material. And
that could have been on Odyssey and Oracle almost.
Yeah, totally. And it's got that, very evocative Nights in White Satin romantic ballad vibe to it, like that, like a romantic ballad with psych trimmings, which there should be more of that kind of stuff. I really like that kind of, like the late night Time Life commercial kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. This was a totally conceivable way forward for them, I think, and was left on the cutting room floor of history, which makes no sense. Smoky Day is, possibly the best song on here, I think. And there's the rest of the songs on that side are big nope. Girl Help Me, I Could Spend the Day, and Conversation Off Floral Street. No good. It's like latter era Hollies. Then side B, If It Don't Work Out, that one is a course correction. It's a really, really good song. I love the droning background vocals and the string stabs, and the wailing brass and the coda. It is kind of an unsung classic, I think. It should have been a big hit single. I'll Call You Mine. I've always hated that song, and I know you do too.
Actually, I don't. That one did not sound good to me today.
Yeah, that one, dog shit, I think. When Chris White misses, he misses hard. He also hits hard, so I'll keep trying. A killer pop tune. The riff, the way that it just wanders all over the place, kind of reminds me vaguely of And Your Bird Can Sing. Mm-hmm. I Know She Will. Great Chris White song.
Yeah, that's another one of those. I know, like where he's consoling his friend of his that the woman.
I know she will.
I know she will. Don't worry. She's still in love with you. She will be your world. Warm to her. I think there's that line like, she'll warm to you. Like, warm to you. It's like, I've always been fascinated by that line, like, she'll warm to you.
That had to have sounded dated even at that time. So Don't Cry For Me is next. Probably the most outtakey thing here from Chris White. And then Walking in the Sun, which is very pretty.
I love that song. That was actually my favorite zombie song for quite a while.
That's really good stuff.
I love that song. I love Walking in the Sun.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room just for a second. Argent's voice compared to Blundstone's is not impressive at all. That, I think, is an inherent weakness of the LP. Ultimately, I give...
What songs is he singing? Because I was listening to it today, and I was like, I couldn't figure... I was like, wait a minute.
I don't know offhand. I just remember it, the stuff on Rest in Peace, kind of, washing over me. I just wasn't really all that impressed, and it was a real down. So I give it 3 stars. It's not bad, but...
Yeah. It has Walking in the Sun on it, and it does have some... Yeah, 3 sounds good to me. I didn't really know about this concept of the Lost album. I mean, even though I have all this stuff on different... I didn't really know.
Yeah. It was kind of just like odds and sods kind of thing that they chose to call an album. But really some of it was recorded in what was then present day, and it wasn't. It was kind of, it was Imagine the Swan and I'll Call You Mine. It was that kind of stuff. Anyway, now we move into a less savory part of their career. So Lou and I are going to pick up the pace so that none of you, slip into a narcoleptic stupor. Plus, my wife and child are parked down the block, and it's not worth keeping them there for this material. So Phase 4, Plotacy and Boracle, 1968 to 2022. Lou's already getting nervous. I can hear him. Okay, now it's...
I heard some of this today.
Yeah,
I can't, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know indeed. Okay, so let's talk about the first 20 years. So from 69 to 88, after Time of the Season became a big hit, they declined to regroup for concerts. That was it. It really was. So there was also the same kind of bullshit that was happening around that time quite frequently, including with the Moby Grape, which is like all kinds of, falsely concocted bands trying to capitalize on the success and touring under the band's name through the actions of unsavory promoters. So there were fake touring entities of the Zombies, all that kind of stuff going on. In 69, Rod Argent formed Argent with Chris White as a non-performing songwriter. Atkinson worked at A&R at Columbia. Hugh Grundy joined him there after a brief time working as a car salesman. Blunstone started a solo career after a brief period outside the music business, including working in the burglary claims section of an insurance company. Both Argent and White gave him new songs. He also did studio vocals for the Alan Parsons Project, which I did not know.
Oh.
And Atkinson retired as a performer and worked as an A&R exec for a bunch of years. The only music from the Zombies I came across during this time period, the first 20 years after the band, was from 78. There are two demos from 78, Hold My Hand, aka Lula Lula, and When My Boat Comes In. Both are tacked on at the end of 1991's also shitty New World. Both are okay, and both are also sadly better than anything they'd ever do again. The first, Hold My Hand, is a folky, finger-picked Fogelberg kind of a deal with layered Mysterioso-type harmonies that unfortunately shoots for CSN and lands on Firefall. The second is a sad sack jamboree, but at least there's something that is vaguely interesting. This is the very, very last time it would be like that. I give it 2 3/4 stars. That's 1978. 11 years later, let's talk about how their sound is irreparably changed in the intervening 20 years. This is not a slightly less good version of the band we've come to know and love. It's not like we have to learn to accept a slightly less amazing version of them. It's a completely different sounding band. The instrumentation is now a vague synth pad wash that hovers over a blank space, which serves as a poor substitute for the absence of a band we once knew as the Zombies. Also, I figured maybe those yawning empty spaces should be filled in with sonic details that amount to an actual song. But Lou, I don't know if you actually plumbed through all the recordings.
No.
This is where being a rock star is far preferable to being a podcaster. I feel like I have a duty to the audience. Like I listen to
obviously do. I heard some of it today. Just the textures are so off-putting. I can't.
So off-putting. So in 89, Blunstone, White, and Grundy, they briefly came together as the Zombies with a guitarist keyboardist named Sebastian Santamaria. They recorded the Return of the Zombies. Return of the Zombies, I give 1 star. Nothing to talk about here. 1991, New World. So this is pretty damn bad. This also gets 1 star. Some interest is kicked back into the band with a 120-track compilation of the original band's work, Zombie Heaven. That's the box set. It's incredible. And the material that would have made up the unissued RIP LP is pretty much all there. So you have that, right? So you have all that stuff. Even the last dregs, it's all in there. Blundstone and Argent didn't play together again until late 99. And unfortunately, they got back together and played again. So in 2000, they got together under Colin Blundstone and Rod Argent and recorded an album called Out of the Shadows in 2001. I give that a half star.
Whoa.
I seriously have nothing. As Grail Marcus once famously asked, what is this shit? Okay, so in 2001, they resurrected the Zombies as a recording and touring unit with Jim Rodford, his son Steve, and a guy named Keith Airy on guitar, whoever the fuck that is. Atkinson died later that year. In 2004, As Far As I Can See comes out. It's their fourth album. Pitchfork gave it a 0.9 out of a 10. I thought they were a little bit brutal. Again, that's a 0.9. I give it 1 3/4 stars. All right, so then in 2011, Breathe Out, Breathe In comes out. It's not a good record. I give it 1 star. It really sucks. I have to hand it to him. At least it sounds fuller. That's all I can really say. In 2012, the band members participated in the unveiling of a commemorative plaque where they met for their first rehearsal at the St. Albans pub. And to Lou and I's dismay, in 2013, it was announced that they'd be appearing on the second annual Moody Blues Cruise. Lou, I'll meet you there, brother. 2015, an album called Still Got That Hunger comes out. Okay, I'm going to say that the very first song, the only song since 1969 that I've liked is on this record. I'm actually going to put it on the playlist. It's called "And We Were Young Again." This easily sounds like the most that the Zombies have ever sounded like themselves since the 60s. And it's not a great. It's a great song. It should actually have been a hit on the adult contemporary circuit. I wouldn't say it's a great track, but it's befitting of their stature. It's worth hearing. That's why I'm putting it on the playlist. Jim Rodford died in 2018. The band were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2019. In late 2021, they announced that they'd be undertaking big tours. In January 2022, it was announced that the UK part of the tour would be, who cares? It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters, in the newest copy of Mojo, Colin Blundstone remarked that a new Zombies album is actually ready for release. Unfortunately, he says because of the pandemic, everything has taken so much longer. He adding that keyboardist Rod Argent had written me real cracking songs. So yeah, just like real life zombies, these fuckers never die either, no matter how many times I kill them. So let's talk about the overview and shape of their arc. From July 64 to April 65, they were completely pure and only knew how to craft masterworks. He's Coming Home and It's Bombing in April 65 put an end to that and set in place a schism in which the band didn't know which muse to follow, the muse of success or the muse of artistic ambition achieved. To them, as jazz fans, they were usually two different and utterly separate ideals. Ultimately, the second guessing, the fickle marketplace, and the incorrect perception of the band as hopeless squares of the past had them doomed from the start. They were only truly a going concern as a functioning recording unit for a total of 3.5 years, from July 64 to mid-December 67. Ironically, once they got the right to do whatever they wanted artistically, they churned out a consistent stream of who gives a flying fuck. But oh well, life is messy and rarely works out like Dino Jr. Top 3 songs. Number 3, Tell Her No. Number 2, Care of Self 44. Honorable mention, this will be our year. Number 1, Leave Me Be. Worst song, Going Out of My Head, mainly for what it stands for. Lou?
I got to do a top 3. Okay,
oh shit! You didn't do your homework?
No, I didn't know I had a top 3, but I'm just gonna do it. Like right now, my top 3. She Does Everything for Me. It's 3. Mm-hmm. I Must Move is number 2. Number 1 is Walking in the Sun.
Damn, really?
Sure. I felt that way.
Okay, wait, so give me worst song, and then let's return, if we can, to Walking in the Sun.
The worst song is, She Loves the Way They Love Her.
Okay, that's fair. Talk to me about Walking in the Sun, because I didn't get the, and I kind of blew right by it. I wish you'd stop me now, but this is as good a place as any to talk about why that song is so resonant for you.
I loved it when I heard it for the first time. I like that it's like, well, I'm thinking of, like, right now I'm struggling to articulate why, but the lyrics are popping in my head, and it's just if they only knew the joy I share with you, they'd be walking in the sun. It's like, I like that. It's like it's marching forward. It's like, we'll be walking. There's just it's just such a beautiful, hopeful
I'm not
song.
Listen to me, man. I am not letting you get away with that description. We are going to slow things down.
I know.
Close your eyes and think about what that song does to you.
It makes me feel like I'm walking in the sun.
Okay. All right. So do you remember when it hit you like, holy shit, she's not there, tell her no, these are all great songs, but I cannot believe what this is doing to me right now? Do you have that experience with this?
Well, I think I had already I don't know, because Walking in the Sun was it's kind of the unknown, it was sort of one of the outlier. It was, you're done with you've heard the hits, thousands of times. I mean, actually, by the time 1986 had rolled around, I mean, I'd already heard She's Not There on the radio millions of times, and
right.
I actually heard those top hits like a lot. They were still all very well played on oldies radio. So, and in Walking in the Sun was actually a little more immediate even than the stuff that was on Odyssey and Oracle.
Yeah.
And I thought it was heavy. Like I always kind of wanted to cover it with Dinosaur Jr. Like just, it's got this, it's got a real insistent, like, I don't know. And the way the bass actually goes like like really rolls around, like as it starts to sort of climax, and then, but it's a little for them actually. It's almost heavier than their usual stuff. It's a little simpler than some of their stuff, than a lot of their stuff too. Which kind of appealed to me just in my own style. Like I just felt it was something that was like, it felt like my song. I was like, oh, I could do that. I like that one. That one just had a certain, I don't know, I felt like it was mine. Like I felt like I was singing it, when I would hear it. It's just, it just kind of makes it makes my heart soar, and I actually heard a version of it recently that I was not familiar with that had strings on it. That sounded great too. But. Yeah,
that's right. There's 2 versions. And both of them they feel very different, but they're both very good versions.
Yeah, it's just a real charger. I mean, it's a sort of unusual for them, but
I don't know. As a general concept, if these guys were how consciously you were allowing their muse to guide you through your work, but I see a strong connection. It was after a few sort of like rounds, we were bumping into walls trying to figure out a good band to do. This really turned out to be, a great choice. And, the format for this episode, which unexpectedly wove back and forth between the zombies and you, is, I believe, always going to be one that is dear to my heart. Because I believe that it kind of we allowed it to take on a shape of its own, and I'm always going to be in awe of it for that reason.
Good luck editing it.
You know what? I'm going to let it edit itself, and I'm just going to be there to read it. It shouldn't be that difficult. Lou, we've never really met, but it almost feels like long lost brothers here. We got into some deep, dark places, and I appreciate you going there.
No worries.
You've made a friend, and if you ever need anything, man, you just reach out.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Not between the hours of 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., please.
Yeah.
Well, that may be the end of the line for the Zombies catalog, but it is not the end of the line for Lou and I. Tune in next week because Lou and I sit down and have what is objectively, absolutely, unquestionably, 100% the greatest interview that Lou Barlow has ever given. Before we let you go, a heartfelt Discography thanks goes out to Todd Zimmer, who does art and graphics, my beautiful wife and son, Jen and Mason, and for the last time, I will be thanking the great Joe Cravino, who has served with great allegiance for the last year in helping to post the episodes and do work on social media. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to my good friend Joe for helping me out for that long. We're really going to miss you. And by we, I mean me. See you next week on Discography.